Hey, it's Kathleen Rumford from Katalytic Empowerment, coming to you with some personal finance tips for your kids and teens. Please subscribe to keep this channel going and check out the valuable resources in the description. Okay, for those interested, here's a brief summary of how our family set up allowances and chores for our two kiddos. When our kids were 3 and 7 years old, my husband and I read a book by Dr. Kevin Leman, a parenting book called Becoming the Parent God Wants You to Be. Amongst other takeaways, we latched onto the concepts of being intentional with chores and paying our children an allowance based on their age per week. We started at age 7. Yep. We thought that was a lot of money for a young child. They would get, when they're 7, they got $7 a week. And I'm like, oh my gosh, when I was a kid, I got a quarter a week. But there was more to it. They did not have access to all of the money to do as they please. There was structure attached and purposeful lessons to be learned, which I'll describe here. So throughout the years, the girls had chores to do, typically 15 to 20-minute chore each school day. Since we homeschooled, they did that chore right after Bible study and before breakfast. And the allowance they received was kind of like a salary. Again, it was based on their age. So it was their age per week in dollars. But their money was broken up into 4 buckets. That's what we called them. But you could use jars, envelopes, shoe boxes. Clear is better. And we started with cash, but then we moved to actual bank accounts because managing all the cash was a bit cumbersome. But if you could do, for as long as you could do cash, that's great. Because using cash is better because of the tactile sense and emotion attached to real money. However, we managed all of the money via bank accounts and only used real money when the kids wanted to spend it. Okay, so the 4 buckets that we used were giving, college savings, long-term savings / car savings, and save / spend. And the percentages were 10% of their allowance or whatever money that came in for them went to giving, and 25% went into their college savings, 25% went into their long-term / car savings, and 40% went into their savable, spendable jar that they got to, or bucket that they got to decide what they wanted to do with. All right, so let me go into each one of those a little bit. So the give jar or give account, this account was used for charitable contributions to church, ministries that the girls were interested in, and for mission trips that they ended up taking once they got a little bit older. College, that account was for the amount that they were going to have to pay for college, which for our kids was 30%. I paid for all my college growing up and my grad school, and my husband didn't have to pay for any of his. And we decided, you know what, they need to have some skin in the game. And so we decided they would pay 30% of their college. That meant room, board, tuition, everything. So that was not easy. So even with this bucket or account, it was quite an undertaking to pay that, and each child had a kind of a different scenario, but they both did it and they both came out of college debt-free. Much more to share on that topic. All right, the long-term / car fund was an account that the kids had set up. We set up so they could buy their own car at age whatever it was that they needed to buy a car. For our kids, it was around 21. So we had told them from the beginning that we would match this fund up to $5,000 when it came time to purchase their car. So when the oldest turned 21, she made sure she had at least $5,000 in that fund, which then meant we would match $5,000 and she had $10,000 to spend on a car. So she ended up buying a used 2002 Honda Accord and put a little work into it, all for under $6,000. That way, that account still had money to cover insurance, maintenance, vehicle taxes, and that kind of stuff. Now, something to think about here, though, as she continued to work, as she got older, she continued putting money into that account so that that account wouldn't just dry up once she used the money for tires and insurance and all that stuff. Obviously, that account needs to continue having money in it for the rest of your life because your cars always need maintenance and insurance and taxes and stuff. So that's more along the lines of budgeting, which we're not going to talk about right now. Okay, and then the last bucket was save / spend. This account was used for things that mom and dad were not going to pay for. So the kids learned great lessons in patience, responsibility, opportunity cost, right? Choosing priorities for their money. If they spend money here, they don't have it for something else later on. We call this the spendable, but it was really a save spend because oftentimes they were saving for something specific. All right, so let me cut over to a clip of my younger daughter sharing what this system throughout her childhood did for her when well, while she went through it, but then as she entered into young adulthood after college, and then we'll jump back. As a parent, I implemented a certain thing that I've already told them about with regard to finances, and wanted to know as a child how you received that.
I remember being happy that I was getting more money than most of my friends were every week as an allowance. And, I was working for that money, but I felt like some type of independence because of that. But then when I realized I had to break up the money into different savings accounts and I only got to keep 40% as spendable, I was like, hey, wait a minute. I don't get to keep all my money. And I probably put up a little bit of a stink about it. And, I obviously didn't understand the true concept of what was going on until I got older. Yeah. And I realized, okay, look, I have all this money in savings. I have more savings than a lot of people my age do. And this is my money that I've worked for, especially once I started to babysit and nanny and then get jobs. I still did that with that money. I broke it into separate savings accounts. But I also remember once I started to babysit when I was around 13, and I was getting substantially more money than I was with just my allowance. Seeing that bigger paycheck getting split up was hard because I wanted to go shopping or do whatever with that money, and I couldn't.
You were still just keeping 40%.
I was just keeping 40%. And, that's hard for somebody to grasp at that age. But as I got older, I did definitely realize the value of it, but it didn't fully hit me until I was completely financially independent, which was 6 months ago. Yeah. When I graduated college. I was always somewhat financially independent, but a lot of money that would be going towards my rent and stuff and food was coming partially out of my savings and out of your guys' savings. So it was coming out of my money, but it wasn't coming out of income I had to generate that month. So once I started to work and pay for everything fully, that's when I realized, I was like, this isn't that hard. I remember a lot of my friends graduating and being like, oh my gosh, I just wish I could go back to college. Those were the good times, all this responsibility. But I remember being like, well, first of all, I'm not spending all my time doing school, which is something you're not getting paid for. I have more time now to get paid. And yeah, I have to spend a lot of it on rent, groceries, bills, whatever. But I already had been kind of doing that. Well, I already had been doing that. So it wasn't like a blow. I was used to only having a little bit of money left over to spend on fun things, clothes and eating out and stuff. So I was already used to that. And I almost felt like it was, I don't know, I really felt like I kind of eased into that responsibility very organically and smoothly. And that was nice to experience. Nothing too abrupt or kind of painful because, some people aren't prepared for that and make pretty detrimental mistakes.
Okay, so hopefully that underscored some of the benefit of working with your kids from a young age on financial literacy, getting paid for work, entrepreneurial skills, developing godly character. And there'll be more to come in this channel, but just on that topic, what about you? What have you tried? Has it worked well? Any other ideas? Drop a comment below and don't forget to subscribe and check out the resources in the description. All right, see you next time.